This is Home to All, an all-inclusive real estate podcast with your host, Nicholas Acosta. Nick sits down with guests to talk about real estate and how it works. Reach him at downtown.expert on Facebook and Instagram, or his website, www.downtown.expert, or call or text him at 407-508-8809. Enjoy the episode.
Hello, everybody. This is Nick Acosta, host of the podcast, Home to All, an all-inclusive real estate podcast, coming to you live from the View at Lake Eola in downtown Orlando, Florida. Again, today joining me is Blanchard Insurance. Also want to mention one of our new paid advertisers as well, Lux Mortgage, great lender over there, Lux Mortgage in Winter Park area, and Janice Orcutt is the lender of choice. So Mike and Frank, welcome to the show. How are you guys doing today?
Great. Absolutely. Looking forward to on my green screen, jumping from 2021, hopefully leaving a little bit of that behind and going forth into 2021. And it's been a great jump so far.
Awesome. So Mike, do you want to go ahead and introduce Frank to everybody that's listening and watching today?
Yeah, absolutely. I personally met Frank a few years ago through some mutual colleagues and acquaintances, and had a lot in common. Frank, he'll tell you more about his background, but we have a lot of shared stories from the insurance world, especially in the homeowners insurance world, and we've kind of been working together for the last few years on some exciting projects together. And it's Frank's been a great colleague, a great associate, and a great friend, and it's kind of worked from there. But I will let Frank introduce himself a little more and tell you a little bit about more what he does.
Well, thanks, Nick, Mike. Thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here. So I've spent the last 20 years in the property and casualty insurance title space, kind of doing all things between risk management to homeowners insurance to enterprise sales in the title space. We built our first insurance agency back in 2020, or I should say 2000, and partnered with a big title underwriter, grew nationally, worked for Stewart, First American across the country, licensed in all 50 states. So excited to be here, and hopefully we can educate some people on some stuff today.
No, that's awesome. Yeah, Mike may have told you, I don't know if he told you or not, that even though I'm in real estate, prior to this, funny story, I have a bachelor's degree in mass communication journalism, but I was an employee of a major insurance company at Progressive as a claims adjuster for 20 years, and now I'm in the real estate world. So that's awesome that you're for what you do as well there, Frank. That's awesome, man.
Yeah, he comes from the we have a lot of stories we've shared together about the Progressive and the the adjusting PIP and everything else over the years, especially here in Florida. It's always exciting.
Most definitely.
Well, it's interesting. One of the things over the last 20 years, what I've personally done on the P&C space has been the E&O and the cyber insurance, and have written thousands of E&O policy for real estate offices, title companies. And, one of the biggest things we've seen are the claims in the real estate side and title side, misrepresentation of properties and all those kind of things. So we've actually developed a CE series on protecting your license, your liability, and avoiding lawsuits, staying away from Morgan & Morgan and Dan Newland from those lawsuits.
Yeah, when you're talking about that, so one thing, would that be, I guess that's cyber liability. We could talk, I know that's on our topic for today. I guess we could start with that, guys, if that's okay. The question I had for you, so you're talking about, just for the listeners out there, for instance, as a business owner myself, and as you guys as business owners, saying that if you have a website for your company, would that have to do with making sure that your site is secure, that nobody can steal data from it, as well as Disability Act compliance?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I'll start off a little bit. We've seen, and me and Frank have both seen this. I mean, in the past, I mean, when you were dealing with, title and lending and, the real estate world, when it came down to insurance, everything was, everybody really just cared about errors and omissions insurance. And cyber wasn't really a threat for a long time. And then, of course, as technology starts booming, especially in the real estate world and in the title space, and a lot of the work is outsourced more, and there's more moving parts. It just kind of opened the door for a lot of hacking groups, whether they're out of Russia, Southeast Asia, or domestic here. So we're seeing a lot more incidents, and it's not really just your website and making sure it's ADA compliant, but it's also, me and Frank have seen this trend developing where there's a lot of cyber liability claims arising out of social networking. So your social media platforms, whether it's libel, slander, whether it's stealing data or, making, false accusations. And then, it also has to do with, your CRM that you're using, whether it's, or real estate platform, people hacking into those, people hacking into emails and basically stealing data. And like I said, me and Frank have seen a lot of, that kind of has spiked in the last couple of years, especially during COVID, with more people working remotely and whatnot. And we've even had a couple claims where we've actually seen, for example, a lender wanting to bond specific payments or payments that have gotten lost or stolen in the mail. So we've seen that. So.
Oh my God. So what is your take on that, Frank, as well?
Well, like Mike said, it's kind of scary. And really, to put it in layman's terms, over the years, we've seen people send out emails saying, don't open any emails sent from me. My email's been hacked.
Yeah.
And that's pretty much one of the easiest layman terms to put it in that everybody out there listening can associate with. Interesting enough, over the years with our cyber classes, we worked with the FBI, the Secret Service on some of these cyber claims, because you're looking at it, as a realtor, Nick, you're excited. You get a buyer that's buying a house.
Right.
Of course, you're friends with that buyer on Facebook. And one of the biggest things we see is, Nick gets a buyer. They says, hey, my buyer's buying this house. Well, the black hats, the bad people out there, they're out there looking for those things. So now they know your buyer, the buyer's address. They start spamming them with wiring instructions. And, I just seen this the other day. Somebody in Michigan, this is the exact story I was telling you about. The real estate agent posted on Facebook, hey, my buyers are buying this great house. They turned around and posted on social media. They started getting spams right away. They got an email for wiring instructions. The buyers actually wired $40,000 to an erroneous account.
Wow.
When they verified with their lender and their title agent, they're like, well, you shouldn't have gotten that yet.
Right.
And, people think, in the real estate world, we're so busy texting, the email, the secure email is really not there in that space. So that's where we run into some real troubles, is we're not verifying information.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm sure both of you will agree with this, that data has really become a new currency. I mean, it's no longer, let's rob the bank and, steal the funds out of the vault, but it's more like, let's break into the vault and go into the safety deposit boxes and get everybody's social security cards and, all that data. And that's becoming, being bought and sold, traded and hacked at a premium right now. And we're even seeing that in the insurance space with a lot of the CRMs. Like it was announced today that a smaller CRM that manages millions of people's data was just aggregated and bought by a larger CRM vendor, which is really interesting. So it's cyber threat and cyber liability has just become a new norm from what we're seeing in the insurance and the real estate industry.
I completely agree. And I was thinking about something from listening to you guys. For example, I guess personally in my business, in real estate, they're actually talking about cyber liability and like in relation to ship to social media. For example, Facebook, when you go to post a property or you do what's called a squeeze page on which I use CRM that does a squeeze page to Facebook, and basically it's a way to advertise it where you can click on the link or the post, and then it, extracts data, or somebody can sign up to get information on properties. So for example, when you do that, Facebook has these algorithms in it, or these detection systems, that says it'll ask you, are you selling something? Like for like a Facebook marketplace or whatever.
Yeah.
So it automatically, now Facebook has it where it automatically detecting if it's something for sale, and it reads the category like real estate or property or whatever you want to call it, or whatever the item might be. And what happens is, I noticed on there, actually, I went to look at Facebook one day in the marketplace somewhere. And so somebody else, I don't know if they were a real estate agent or broker or not, who they were, but they stole my listing information and were posing to sell it themselves as a for sale by owner for a property that they do not own. So that's probably one example, I'm sure, of like the cyber liability out there, that people can steal the data and try to pose as being a real estate agent or that they own the property, which can cause problems because, like Frank was talking about the erroneous account sending in the 40,000. The same thing can happen for the people that think, oh, this is for sale by owner. They gave me wire instructions where to send money, or Western Union or whatever it may be, and now they're going to go lose their money to somebody that's stealing from them.
Absolutely.
We've seen that a lot in the property management space, like you said. When the foreclosure market hit here in Florida in 2008, 9, and 10, there was a lot of vacant properties out there, and people were vacant. We saw a lot of rental properties on Craigslist, and people were sending $5,000 on Craigslist, and 2 weeks later they find out they don't own the home. So it is a scary thing out there, and people got to be careful.
So yeah, let's jump into something that I know we got on the list here that I'm really excited about. And I've been getting into personally with Blanchard Insurance over the last couple of years, is the expansion of VA tech. And if a lot of people don't know what that is, that's virtual assistants. And getting additional help, remote help, to grow your business and help you grow in ways and help you expand and achieve economies of scale at the same time. And I was excited to hear one of the companies that Frank works for, which is called Avon's Group, which we started working with, probably going on about 2 or 3 years now. And we've really been able to expand Blanchard Insurance and like what we do by taking a lot of the admin work, the back office work, the stuff that's behind the curtain that our clients don't see, and honestly, we don't want them to see because it's nothing to do with them, but it makes our company work more efficiently, and it's been great. And we're very happy to announce that Frank's company has also come onshore and has just opened offices down here in Orlando, which is great, and we're excited and happy to grow with them as well. But I'll let Frank tell you a lot more about that.
Yeah, thanks, Mike, and thanks for the kudos. Yeah, so at the Avance Group, our main office is here in Orlando. We're off Sand Lake Road, just in between Kirkman and John Young Parkway. Beautiful 3-story building. We just acquired 6,000 square feet here, and this is our U.S. production facility. We also have 4 facilities offshore in Bangalore and Salem, India. We really take virtual assistants to the next level. And we do it in a hybrid model. We have onshore, offshore, and we do real estate, mortgage, title, and insurance production offshore. So, whether vertical you're in, whether it's real estate, mortgage, or title, we will facilitate the production work offshore. And it really becomes economy of scales. I mean, like Nick, in your world as a real estate professional, you want to basically spend time showing homes, doing open houses, and going to closings, correct?
Right, correct.
You know, the 161 things that happen between the time you meet your buyer for the first time or your listing customer, your sellers. In closing, there's about 160 things that happen between meeting them and closing. And so our offshore team facilitates a lot of those functions for the agents. Same thing goes into the lending facility. Like I said, we have over 600 employees offshore. So we focus on the real estate, mortgage, title, the property and casualty insurance space. You know, where we work with Mike's team is, you know, our team in India is basically a second shift. While everyone's sleeping at night or supposed to be sleeping, you know, our team in India, they're doing quotes. So those buyers are getting the best options on their homeowners insurance.
Yeah, I mean, it's really, to touch on what Frank just said, it's really allowed our operation to incorporate a second and a third shift and be 24/7, 365. And it helps us compete not only against our, you know, our peer-to-peer competitors, the other insurance agencies out there, whether, you know, they're a captive like State Farm or another independent like themselves, but it also allows us to compete and run in tandem with some of the largest insurance companies in the United States, like Progressive or Safeco or Travelers, or some of these centers that are really offering a 24-hour 7 days a week, 365 days a year service. And one of the things to add on to what Frank was just talking about was when we originally started investigating and utilizing, you know, virtual assistants, we really combed the market. I mean, Frank really wasn't the first person we talked to. We looked at, because a lot of the virtual assistants are from Southeast Asia. A lot of them are out of the Philippines, Indonesia, South America, even Eastern Europe. And the one thing that we take very seriously, like we were just talking about, is the integrity of our data and our clients' data. So when we started looking at this, that was our major focus and concern, was how secure is the organization we are going to be working with. When we started doing our research, we would find smaller companies, maybe 2 or 3 guys, you know, working out of a house somewhere, and that's all the referrals we were getting. And I wasn't really keen on the security. And then when I started talking to Frank and started talking to some of the owners and the managers at the company over in Bangalore, India, I was blown away. I mean, it was going from I'm talking to somebody, you know, in, you know, a apartment somewhere overseas to I'm talking to a facility that, you know, as far as the security goes, almost looks like the Pentagon. I mean, it's highly secure, very professional. Everything is, you know, secure behind a key code. They are SOC compliant. I mean, it just blew me away. I mean, they're attached to a university. A lot of the people who are actually working there have, you know, higher degrees than I will ever have in my lifetime. So it really blew me away, and it gave me a sense of security. And when we look at and me and Frank have this conversation all the time, and we think that's very important when you're looking and researching virtual assistants, because I hear these horror stories all the time of I found some guy online and guess what? He stole my client's data and I will never see him again. And you probably won't. I mean, out of a third world country, that happens all the time. And you also have to look at we see some of it coming out of, you know, like the Philippines, for example. A lot of the VA companies are there. Well, when you look at, you know, the situations where a tsunami hit, you know, the Philippines and wipe it out, well, what happens to my business? My business cannot slow down. I feel bad for the country. I feel bad for what's going on, but my business still has to run. And you also have to look at some of the governments in this country. Some of the governments are very unstable, and you have to take those into consideration. So that was a lot of the things when we started, you know, looking into it, was what is going to be the best for our clients and the best for our business that is the most secure option as well. And that's where we, you know, landed on working with Avon's group.
Yeah. And it's so true, Mike. You know, like our team in India, you know, the key cards, you know, it's almost like a maze. You get into one section of the building, and if you didn't swipe, you get kicked out, and you're kind of locked in that room. You can't get into move to the next room. So it's pretty exciting on what we do at Avance. And, you know, like Mike said, you know, having the security, we carry $3 million in E&O insurance, which most, insurance agents here in the U.S. only carry $1 million. We have 2 separate $1 million cyber policies, one for our Avance Tech Labs and one for Avance Group. So, when it comes to insurance, we're overinsured on a lot of different ways.
And I love the fact that, they are local here to Florida now. And I mean, we've always had Frank as our liaison, but in our personal representative with Avans. But I also love the fact that they've gone the extra mile and have open onshore operations now here in Central Florida, which I think is great. And it just provides that extra level of security and comfort, knowing that we're growing with an organization that takes security and just takes it highly and very seriously, because I think that's important about what we were just talking about earlier with cyber threat and everything else.
Oh yeah, it is. And you know what? You can never be too secure or conservative as far as taking approach to that. We did a CE class. I think Mike, you were at it last year. Yes. We brought a cybersecurity expert, retired Army gentleman, into our cyber CE class. And he actually started the class and said, okay, everybody, we have free Wi-Fi in this facility. He goes, everybody open your cell phone up and go to this Verizon and click on that and join this free Wi-Fi hotspot. Well, he did at the beginning of the class, and at the end of the class, he was actually able to hack several people's emails that were actually sitting in that classroom. And when he sat there and read some of the emails out loud from some of the people that had their laptops there, you never know, the if, when, and where, in the real estate world. And we've kind of joked over the years, real estate agents sitting in Starbucks coffee shops with their iPad, right? Using the Starbucks Wi-Fi, right? Before COVID, of course. Right. You have an open Wi-Fi network. You are most vulnerable for attacks there. So, doing, those kind of things in the cyber world are just so, to me, is scary. We're worried about, people compromising our PINs when we're at our ATM machine or buying stuff online. The cyber world is definitely something that everybody out there needs to be cognizant of. With the fake websites or, people imitating Amazon or eBay or things like that. And, to one point, and Mike, I think I shared this story with you. There was a real estate agent that was using a virtual assistant in the Philippines, and he was paying his assistant via PayPal. One day that real estate agent woke up and found out that $400 was transferred from his PayPal account. And guess who it was sent to? His virtual assistant in the Philippines.
Oh boy.
Yeah, I mean, you can't make this stuff up. Some of the horror stories that are out there. So, what I tell everyone out there is, always, an ounce of prevention prevents a pound of pain.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And one of the other exciting things that we've been working on, besides working with Frank and Avans, is they've actually helped us kind of grow our business in the real estate world, not as a real estate brokerage or as a title company or anything like that, but he's actually helped us partner with a lot of real estate brokerages and a lot of title companies in helping them build insurance verticals as well. Because it's one thing that Frank has done in the past, I've done some in the past, but until we partner together, we become really full steam ahead. Because a lot of real estate companies, and I know we've talked about this topic before, and title and lending and everything has looked at an insurance vertical and how can they add that into their organic growth as well. Not only for the revenue, but to have that extra level of service for the clients, and it helps with client, retention, definitely on the insurance piece. So Frank and me have worked on a lot of projects, and not just in Florida, even outside of Florida, where we've gone in and built some of these insurance verticals. And it's been a very exciting project for us to do. And, we look forward to continuing that in the future. But I'll let Frank talk a little bit more about how he's done that in the past, because he's done a lot more than I have.
Well, yeah, in this world, everybody is taking that Amazon approach. You can go to Amazon and virtually buy anything, or we talked about the Walmart approach, over the years since Walmart expanded, to their automotive, their grocery, their eye care, everything they have there. And that's really where the real estate market goes, especially here in Florida. You have so many transient people. They want to call Nick and they want to go ahead and buy a house, get the lending, get the title work done, get the insurance, and be done in that one-stop shop mentality. So over the years, we put many of those large shops into a property and casualty vertical where they can participate in a revenue through a RESPA compliance vertical. And that's a big, heavy word when I say RESPA, because the RESPA police are looking for those illegal ventures. So we put a RESPA compliant venture together where they can legally participate in those offerings. And, over the years since 2000, I've had people from all over the country call me and say, hey, Frank, I'm moving from Tennessee. And after Charlie, Gene, and Francis, they're like, I heard I can't get insurance in Florida. That's the thought process outside of Florida because of hurricanes and sinkholes and whatnot. So it becomes a troubling situation for homebuyers. They don't know where to turn because a lot of the big commercials they see on TV, they're not writing in Florida.
Right.
You have local options, regional carriers. People in Michigan, Ohio, and Illinois, they have never heard of Universal Property or Florida Penn or Tower Hill for that matter. So, they need a little bit of guidance, and, taking that proactive approach is a very exciting thing. And that's kind of how we started our first agency. We built our agency. We partnered with First American Title, and then later sold our company to First American Title. And it just becomes a part of the transaction these days.
And I think a lot of the real estate world too and a lot of the title world is looking at it very seriously again, and not just because they want to be able to guide their clients through the complicated Florida homeowners market, and just to talk about that a little more, that's what our focus is in going into 2021 when we're helping people build these verticals. It's not Tennessee, it's not South Carolina, it's strictly here in Florida, because we think there's a great opportunity here in Florida because you can really find a niche in this market. But the other thing is, they are seriously looking at are the premiums that are being generated in Florida right now. And to give you an example, just on a condo policy and a standard primary residence, nothing fancy. Yes, nicer upper end homes, but I believe they were somewhere down in Tri-County, and I was working with one of our team writing the business, the two premiums alone added up to about $20,000 in premium. And on a commission side, that could go, commission could go anywhere between, $2,000 and $4,000, depending on the company and their commission structure. So, but we were looking at it, and the amount of time, to take to do it was not long at all, but we were kind of shocked and looking at, okay, well, when we were doing this like 15 years ago, getting to $20,000 in premium, we would have had to written 20 policies. But you're seeing it now that it's only taking some time in certain areas, to write 2 policies. And I think, and obviously the real estate brokerages and the title brokerages and title companies are, looking at that going, oh my God, these revenues are extremely high right now. So why aren't we tapping into this? And that's where me and Frank have stepped in and said, why aren't you? And why don't we help you partner and build this thing for you and navigate it for you as well?
Mm-hmm. And especially when, folks like you, Nick, you're out there working with investors, buying investment homes. I've I've heard this 1,000 times over the last 20 years is, well, we're buying a new house and we're going to rent our old house and move into the new house.
Right.
Well,
Yep.
they forget to change the insurance from a owner occupied to a rental property. And there's, a lot of moving parts. So, we partnered with some large property management companies to create those verticals, because essentially you have two customers. You have the property owner, then you have the tenant that of course needs renter's insurance and whatnot. So, it's a great vertical. We built insurance agencies across the country. One of my largest verticals was I put a Berkshire Hathaway real estate group in the San Francisco market with 30 plus offices into their own vertical. And, they're writing 300-400 policies a month. They are essentially one of the largest insurance agencies in San Francisco doing homeowners insurance. What they really are is a real estate company. So,
Right. Yep.
yeah. So it is a beautiful renewal revenue stream and a long-term equity piece.
Yeah, and just client retention, like I said, I mean, some of the partners we have built, real estate brokerages over the years and built this vertical for them. It's really a silo for data. Because like we are, we're just like the CPA. I mean, we're like the phone book CPA or the phone book for these people. I mean, they call us and I know we've had this conversation extensively before, but I mean, they call us and ask us, who do I go for a divorce attorney? They call us when they asking for a realtor, a lender. And we're so privy to that because the insurance always becomes a piece of it that we know when, cousin Larry is moving to Florida and Uncle Bob is selling his house well before they actually even put it on the market. So if anybody ever wants to kind of get into this vertical, it really comes down to that the insurance becomes a staple in these people's lives. And I'm talking for 10 or 20 years. And that is really the value that an insurance agency from a partnership can provide a lot of people.
Oh, I agree. And one of these days, either this week or next week, I'll have to get in touch with both of you. I've thinking of this idea for my own brokerage and how, like you're saying, it would be a very smart move to make. So I agree with you guys. That's awesome. I like it.
And it's recession proof.
Right. Exactly.
One of the few things that are recession proof.
Right.
Also on a particular note, and I recently went through this. I built a home about a year ago. And, the same verticals Mike and I were talking about, I've set up these verticals for builders over the years. And interesting enough, 2 days after I signed my contract with a builder, I got an email with a quote from a company in California going, here's some insurance for your new home. And I looked at it, and it kind of goes along with what is insurance today in today's society. And, the media has really commoditized the insurance world.
Absolutely.
It's now a commodity. And there's some insurance companies out there that are like, pay for what you use. Well, how do you know what you use?
Right.
And the sad thing is, people are looking at it as they're in a grocery store going, well, this milk is $2.50 a gallon, this is $2.55 a gallon. I'm going to go save 5 cents and buy this one. But at the end of the day, is the amount of coverage determines what happens when you need it. And a perfect example, the title agency that I was explaining about the $40,000 wire fraud that happened the other day, they had no cyber insurance. So the buyers that actually wired the $40,000 impersonated the title company's email. They thought that was coming from the title company. So now they're getting sued and they have no cyber coverage. Now, a year ago, we talked about cyber insurance. And you know what the owner of that title company told me?
What?
I don't need it.
Oh, yep.
It's kind of like, you see, Nick, you probably have heard over the years, people that have came down here and said, I want to buy a house, but I don't want to live in a flood zone.
Right. Yep. All the time.
All of Florida is a flood zone. It's just the difference between an A, an AE, an X, an A10. Every parcel of land has a flood zone on it. It just determines whether the lender is requiring flood insurance or not. And for $360 a year, if you're not in a flood zone, you can protect everything in it. God forbid you have like what happened in Houston, and I'll tell you a brief story what happened in Houston with Hurricane Harvey. Hurricane Harvey hit Houston, they got 60 inches of rain. So you're talking a lot of rain in 4 days. And there was a lot of homes, about 80% of the homes that flooded were not in a flood zone. The moral to my story is there were several realtors that said, here's a home that's not in a flood zone. You don't need flood insurance. And these buyers actually had emails and text messages from the realtors actually stating that. Well, guess what? Now their home is flooded. And we had 9 different lawsuits where home buyers in Texas sued their real estate agent because they gave them advice saying, you don't need flood insurance to live in this house. So, you know, again, going back to knowing what hat you're wearing when we're out there giving our buyers advice, you know, we have to educate them on, you know, a flood zone is determined by FEMA based on a 100-year flood map. Right. Well, Houston got hit with a 1 in a 500-year flood. And there's a lot of people that are now paying flood insurance that were not paying flood insurance before. So
right.
It's very much commoditized. And I guess where I was going with this is, you know, people want to go online and get these quick quotes and go, well, this is $10 cheaper, I'm going to get this. But there could be something that's not covered on your insurance,
right,
that you may need. You know, uninsured motorists you see in Florida, people that go out and buy cars and, you know, they don't get uninsured motorists. And guess what? Somebody hits them that doesn't have insurance or not enough insurance. You know, the driver that got hit is in SOL. Right, Mike?
Right.
Absolutely.
I know that well, too.
You know, so, you know, having that consultant to sit there and advise them on, you know, options is so important.
Absolutely.
You know, when people are buying homes, you know, they spend a lot of time talking to the realtor. They spend a lot of time talking to the lender on, you know, I see stuff on social media pages, you know, people are, you know, switching between lenders between a 2.7 and a 2.8 percentage rate. You know, when it comes to insurance, that $200 they might save a year could mean the difference between if their house burned down, what's covered and what's not covered.
Right.
Absolutely.
Okay. So it's, you know, so having that relationship, having that quote unquote in-house insurance agency, it's great to hand your buyers off to. So it's, you know, exciting times.
Absolutely.
I completely agree. So we're almost out of time here. Just one word from each of you. Like, what's your advice to anybody? Like a word of maybe positivity for the week from each of you before we go.
Go ahead, Frank.
I would say, you know, as a real estate professional, somebody in the industry, you know, and I do this in my E&O classes, know what hat you're wearing. You know, have a good attorney, have a good lender, have a good title agent with you, or you know, that you have a great relationship that you can refer to. You know, in this day and age, we're all like Siri here. You know, a home buyer or a seller pushes a button and says, hey, Nick, what about this? You know, we're expected to give an answer. And a lot of those answers are things we may not be professionals on. So, you know, have your team of professionals, your realtor, your lender, your broker, you know, work with a good broker. Have a good attorney and home inspector. You know, don't go to social media and say, hey, who's a good inspector here? As a real estate professional, you should know who the good inspectors are.
Exactly.
So, you know, that's my advice is, you know, rely on your vendor panel.
Yeah, I mean, my advice right now is to stay humble. It's worked for me, and I've tried to do that. I think I added this in a blog maybe in the past couple of weeks where when I first got into the industry, our founder of the company, my father-in-law at the time, like he said one thing and it always just stuck in my head. And I was going out, I believe, on my first actual sales meeting a client at their house to their homeowners insurance, because that's what we did back then. But he basically said, he was like, never show up in a nicer car than your clients have, and never wear a nicer watch than they have. And if you do that, you will always, stay humble. And I've kind of like added that in the back of my head for the longest period of time, for almost 20 years being in this business, and it's served me well. And I think it comes back to you in tenfold. And I think it's just, I'm a firm believer in karma. And I think if you help a lot of people out there and you spread a lot of good, it really does reward you in the end, whether it is eventually financially or, gives, a little bit of meaning, that you've lived a life, worth living. So that's, my kind of advice for this week is just stay humble.
Completely agree, guys. Well, thank you, guys. Thank you, Mike, from Blanchard Insurance. And Frank, thank you very much for joining us today. I appreciate you guys being cooperative with our scheduling and all that stuff. So I just want to say thank you guys again.
Okay, thanks. Glad to be here. And you guys stay safe out there and have a great week.
You too.
Most definitely.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, everybody. So this has been the Home to All podcast. Nicholas Acosta here, licensed real estate broker in Orlando, Florida. Blanchard Insurance, paid sponsor of the show, as well as the new sponsor onboarded with this podcast, Lux Mortgage, Janice Orcutt over there at Lux Mortgage. If you're looking to get pre-approved, reach out to Lux Mortgage and ask for Janice Orcutt. All right? You guys have a good day. Take care, and I'll see you guys soon.
This has been Home to All, an all-inclusive real estate podcast. Find Nick on Facebook and Instagram at downtown.expert, and also his website, www.downtown.expert, or call or text him at 407-508-8809. Thanks for listening.
Instead of spending hours or even days looking for your new home, let a downtown Central Florida expert guide you. Hi, I'm Nicholas Acosta, and I'm here to welcome you home. Being a Florida native, I know how exciting, convenient, and stylish the downtown Florida lifestyle is. Whether you're entertaining your guests or enjoying the views, Central Florida downtown has a lot to offer you and your family. Buying, selling, or investing, I'm your downtown Central Florida expert.